All right, what is up, everyone? My name is Chris. Today, I'm going to be answering a couple questions that I got from social media. Now, since all this season suspension stuff is going on, we do not know, or at least I do not know, all of us don't know when the NHL season is going to come back. Now, I have a couple ideas in mind of what I'm going to do. This was one of the things I wanted to get a couple questions, and I got 4 of them here. I think they're really good questions, and I'm going to be answering those in a couple minutes. But another thing I want to do, I want to maybe go back and break down a couple seasons and see how it led up to this point, the draft, prospects, phantoms, all that stuff. And then obviously with the Flyers themselves, cap, stuff like that, break that down and see where it got them to the Flyers in the 1920 season. And then I might go back and break down, the first game that I ever went to, the first season that I watched, a bunch of stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to see time-wise what I'm able to record and stuff like that. But these 4 questions, I think they're all good questions. I'm going to start off with the first one. It is possible playoff matchups. The most likely thing is the Flyers, if they stay in second place, they'll play the Penguins in the first round on home ice. If they get third place, they'll play Pittsburgh. That would be in Pittsburgh. The Flyers wouldn't have home ice advantage, so it'd be games 1 and 2 would be in Pittsburgh, and that would just be the exact same thing as the 17-18 season where the Penguins got the first 2 games at home. If the Flyers get first place, they'll either play Columbus, Carolina, or the Islanders, or the Panthers. Those are like the 4 teams that are really they're basically neck and neck. It's separated by 4 points each of them. Of all those 2 spots left. My guess it's probably going to be Columbus and the Islanders. I can maybe see Carolina slipping out of that spot, but then again, we don't know what's going to happen because if the NHL doesn't play the rest of the season with these 13, I believe most teams have either 12 or 13 games left because some have played 70, some have played 69. In the Flyers' case, they've played 69, so the Flyers have 13 games left on the season. So I don't know what's going to happen. But if that happens and the Flyers get first place, it would probably be either Columbus, Carolina, the Islanders, or Florida, and the Flyers would have home ice advantage being the number 1 team in the Metropolitan Division. If the Flyers were to slump out of all this and go to the first or second wildcard spot, which there's no way that's happening, but you never know, with, the teams in the Metropolitan Division and the East, and crazier things have happened, but they'd either play the Bruins or the Capitals in the first round, and they would not have home ice advantage for any of those series. But to me, the most likely is probably the Flyers get second place. I don't really see first place being a long shot. I mean, they're only 1 point behind it, but you got to think too. Pittsburgh is only 3 points behind them, so if they end up playing the rest of the games, the Flyers just got to keep it going. And that's another thing. One of these questions was, will the team remain hot? I believe they can. I believe they can remain hot, yes. I think it might take a game or 2 maybe to get back to it. But with all this stuff saying that they might open up and they might let the teams practice, I think that might help them because you're just not going to be, it's not like you're going to be a couple weeks to a month, maybe more than that off where you're not doing anything, you're not skating, you're not doing anything. I think to me, I feel like we might see it in a couple games, but I think maybe towards the playoffs we'll be okay. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that they can remain hot. And another question here was, can Carter Hart stay hot? I believe so, yeah. I don't necessarily think, to me, the thing is with this is, Carter Hart is one of them guys where if he, this is such a hard question to judge because it's if he doesn't remain hot, the team basically can't really remain hot because then it's you're struggling to put a goaltender in that net. And it's not like Elliott's been bad. I've said that all year. I mean, they've both been phenomenal goalies this season for the Flyers, and they've really helped. And they've both been a big key to their success. I think if Hart can stay hot, I think the biggest thing for him is just not being swarmed once they come back. I think if he's able to settle into the games and he's able to see the puck early with the team not struggling to get it out of their zone And if the Flyers can continue offensively what they were doing before this whole break, and before like when they had the 9-game winning streak and everything, I think if they can continue all that, but I'm not expecting for them to come out of the floodgates maybe a couple weeks to a month, maybe more than that off, and blow up the league. No, that's most likely not going to happen. But I think if it might take a couple games, I'd say maybe 2-3 games to maybe get their legs going a little bit. But again, I'm hoping that they can obviously come back and play this season if they just bag the games. Again, I don't really know what's going to happen. But another question here was, what injured Flyers can come back? So as of right now, they have 5 long-term injuries. So you have Patrick, who hasn't really played all season. You have Lindblom, who he played a couple games early on, probably played like around 20 games, and he was diagnosed with cancer. He's been out for a long time. He's not going to come back. Patrick might come back, depending on how long this is. The NHL has asked for teams and their arenas to first they asked them if they had availability open until July. So the NHL season might go into July. But that's another thing, because it's like, if that goes, do they have training camp? Do they have development camp at Voorhees, which is in late June? They're not going to have development camp if the Flyers are still playing there. I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen. So, for me, like, the injured guys, yeah, I mean, you might have Patrick come back. Lindblom's a definite no. Phil Myers, who's out 4 to 6 weeks, he will most likely come back. James Van Riemsdyk, who was also out 4 to 6 weeks, he'll most likely come back as well. I think they'll both be healthy by the time all of this ends. If it's short, they might not come back. Now, with this whole 2-week thing, the NHL might be leading towards the end of March, see what happens, and they might go back to the original plan and play out the rest of the games, just have them at different dates, and then go from there. But, the other injury was Nate Thompson. He was out 2 weeks. So, Thompson will definitely come back. Van Riemsdyk will definitely come back. Phil Myers will come back. Nolan Patrick has a really good chance of coming back, and I think that would be good for the Flyers. And I don't know what they would do, because this is another thing that I said earlier. If just say Nolan Patrick came back a couple months ago, or he was able to play a couple months ago, would you have brought him back with, the chemistry that the team had? My answer was no, because they were doing so good, you didn't want to break it up. Now, if this team doesn't play, right, and Nolan Patrick is able to come back, I would say you put Patrick in the lineup, see what happens, let him play a couple games. If not, just don't play him. But if he's able to come back, then put him in the lineup, experiment with him, see what he can do, put him with a couple different lines. I mean, the Flyers are basically a lock to make the playoffs. It's just seeding at this point. So it's like they can switch, and it's not like Alain Vigneault doesn't switch up the lines a lot. So if they switch up those lines, I'd say Patrick can definitely come back. Van Riemsdyk, Myers, Thompson. As for Lindblom, he's probably not going to play the rest of the season, which I know I hate saying it, because Lindblom was having such a good year in a Flyers uniform. But again, I really did enjoy doing these questions. I think they were all good questions. Yes, I do think the team will remain hot. Yes, Carter Hart will stay hot. Playoff matchups, I think they should be good to go. I think the Flyers can move into, to be honest with you, if the season, depending on what happens with the season, and just regard anything, the Flyers can get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I know they can. This team is too good to not get past the first round, to not even get past the second round. I'd say they would lose in the Eastern Conference Final. I don't want to say Stanley Cup, because I don't know what's going to happen. Now, crazier things have happened. I mean, we saw last year's playoffs with all these teams. Tampa Bay getting swept to the second wildcard team. They were one of the best teams in NHL history, and they get swept. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but I believe this team can make the Eastern Conference Final. Now, all this, there's a big setback on that and everything. But once hockey starts up again, I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think these are all good playoff matchups for the Flyers. And again, I'm excited for the rest of the season. I hope they're able to come back and play. And again, podcast, articles, those links are on my channel. And I'm sorry, you've probably noticed it by now, my voice is a little shot. I've had a kind of a cough lately, but again, podcast, articles, those links are on my channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.